So welcome back to the Building Trades podcast. We've been doing this podcast for a while now. We called it The Silence of the Workers. We did a lot of interviews with young Hispanic people who have been mistreated in Alberta. Now today I have a good friend of mine, George Emery, with the OPCMIA, the Operative Plasters and Cement Masons of Alberta, the Masons Union. George is the business manager, and him and I have been working on this file for some time. And so today we just kind of wanted to recap what's been going on, talk to our municipal candidates that are coming up, let them know what's been happening, and at the end we're going to have a call to action because we need partners. So George, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
Yeah, I appreciate it. What we need, can you just give us a quick history of kind of how you discovered this back when you became business manager in 2017, and just kind of lay out what's happening in Alberta?
Well, what was curious to me, when I first became business manager, we used to do the majority of the concrete finishing work for our signatory contractors, and we had one of the contractors in particular would always ask us to enable every job that he got.
What's enabling?
They would ask us to bring down our price either with our overtime or something so he could get the job,
okay,
because he'd say he was running against non-union contractors. And so we started, once he'd get the job and he'd typically get to work, he would call us and we would say, okay, so all this manpower you requested that we enable the job for, what's going on? And he would say, well, we're not going to self-perform. And how it works is he himself is a subcontractor of their own general contractor. So the company has a general contractor. They form several companies under that. And those companies are basically subcontractors, and then one might be a union arm, one might be a non-union arm. And in this example, he was a union arm, and he would say, well, we're not self-performing that. The general contractor is going to perform that. And so we would just be finishing, or we'd have a couple of guys on the site, and when the pour came, all of a sudden a bus load would show up of undocumented workers all there. Some of these guys had suit jackets on, fresh off the plane or however he got here, out there, couldn't walk rebar, nothing, pouring the job for him. And this would typically happen at night. Nobody'd know. They'd come out in the middle of the night, work all night, and then be gone in the morning. And, so we started realizing, okay, so what's going on here? We couldn't really do anything about it because the general contractor isn't signatory to us, so we can't, if we take them to the labor board, it's a problem, because really the labor board sort of protects that business, that they're a separate entity and that these guys are a union arm and they don't have the work. They're saying they're not self-performing, so we're kind of left out in the dark.
Let me just, for the viewers out there, so this is double breasting. Alberta is one of the only provinces in Canada that has double breasting. And our non-union and CLAC and these guys have convinced the government that this is for competition. So, we can drive prices down with competition. But what double breasting has really allowed is for the lack of vision on construction workers. And so we know that this is happening on sites with CLAC and non-union sites. We know it's not happening where the union controls it, because when we send out workers, they have to have a social insurance number, they have to follow the policies that we've agreed to in a collective agreement, and we make sure that everybody on site is working for that company is looked after, certified, competent. That's what we provide. We're private unions. We are not we are not one company unions. We work for a whole bunch of companies that agree through a collective bargaining agreement that this is how workers are going to be treated. Now, in this void of this, these companies will have a union arm where everybody follows the rules. And yes, it's a little bit more expensive because they have to pay CPP, EI, taxation. They have to pay WCB. They have to make sure that their workers are getting a pension and benefits. On the other side of double breasting is the dirty side. Where subcontractor of a subcontractor of a subcontractor can come in, and all of a sudden there's no vision to that worker, and they're getting paid in envelopes full of cash, which if you look back on some of our podcasts, you can see. I don't mean to get all animated about this, but we are at the end of our rope with this frustration. So George, that's what's happening with these companies.
That's what's happening with these companies. Right to today, we 2 weeks ago, there was even at the west leg of the LRT, there was 14 guys that were caught by immigration there. These guys were all independent contractors, all being paid between $20 and $30 an hour cash. And really it's wage theft because they're not really independent contractors. These guys are actually employees. They work for them. They got a foreman that directs them around. They can't leave that job. They're there on that job working as an employee, but they're called independent contractors because they have a GST number. That's what they work through. That's what they, get away with getting paid with. So they don't pay the taxes. They don't pay EI. They don't pay into CPP. And typically, we don't know whether or not they're paying their own WCB or if that's even checked into.
Well, I know that they're not, because we've talked to so many that haven't had it, and they think that they're all covered because they think they're legal. Their English is a second language at best. They get buffaloed by these labor pimps that bring them in. They think they're going to get a temporary residency. They go out on these job sites. They just want to work. They just want to find a path into Canada for them and their families. There's no path for them to citizenship based on this employer unless they can get an LMIA and someone pays $1,000 to bring them in. But it's tough because their only skills are what they're learning once they get here. They're jacks of all trades, but they're not skilled tradespeople.
That's true. And so currently this is a problem. I mean, we've had this problem going on. Well, it's been going on for quite some time. And it's getting worse all the time. And every job you look at, any public job you look at, you're going to find an undocumented worker working there, if not one, several.
And what are the problems with finding them working undocumented, like from safety to PPE? What are some of the things that you've found?
We found that most of them have to supply their own safety gear, their own PPP. So the problem is that they're an employee. Again, it's just circumventing, it's wage theft is what it is. And not only that, the safety aspect of it, they got these guys out in paper masks, chipping or grinding concrete. And we all know there's silica in it, and there's issues around, this kills people. And these guys, they don't know any better. They're out there in there working, and they may have to supply their own safety gear, and which is pretty sickening, really, when you think about it. Here they are, underpaying them, and they can't even supply proper safety gear for them. This is a real problem. And it seems to me that, nobody polices these sites. We've been at the city several times about this. We've talked to several politicians about it. We've sent letters to contractors, the ones that were perpetrators of this, and they're the ones subbing it out. They're all turning a blind eye to it, and it's just cheap labor for them. And this is how things are getting done. And it's sad that we had a list of over 300 public projects in this province, and we don't have any union work on any of those jobs except for one. That's pathetic. Yeah. And all of these jobs have undocumented workers working on them. And that's who's taken over our industry. And for us, I mean, yeah, we can stand there, but we can't police every job for them either. And the sad part is there is nobody to police these jobs. There's no one agency that actually goes out and handles this. And it's rapid across Canada.
It's crazy. So you mentioned politicians. So we have one ally in the political sphere of all three levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal, and that's Kelly McCauley, Conservative MP for Edmonton West. Kelly is an ally who has been with us out on the trenches.
Yes.
We took Kelly, we said, we'll show you the bridge. We'll show you where they're working. And so we brought Kelly and Sarah Hamilton, city councillor from Edmonton, and we walked down the bridge on Anthony Henday at Terwilliger. And every worker that we found, and they all spoke Spanish, they didn't speak English. We had a Spanish translator organizer with us. Every worker we found was an independent contractor or working under the table, all of them getting paid $20 an hour cash. This is for a big company working on our roads here in Edmonton. This is a call to action for our politicians. We want to work with you. We want to work with municipal, provincial, and federal politicians. But you have to understand that our frustration comes in that the skilled labor shortage is being amplified 10 times by the fact that these entry-level cement, concrete, labor, carpenter jobs are all going the way of an undocumented workforce. And the undocumented workforce might be legal Canadians, but they're getting paid cash. So you're losing all that taxation while the rest of us construction workers are paying our taxes. We are all playing by the system. We don't have tax shelters as construction workers. We pay our 30+% income tax to the federal and provincial governments. We pay our property taxes because it used to be we could buy a house on our wages. But now construction is going to lowest bid. Lowest bid always. Lowest bid does not ever mean cheapest bid. Lowest bid tells you they're going to do something, and then they hit you with all the extras after to make sure that they make some profit level. There's good companies out there. I was at the Calgary Construction Association last week talking to a gentleman who says, there's no money in construction anymore. We have to do everything by volume, 5%. I said, is that why people are using these subcontractors and treating people like this? He goes, exactly. There's just no money in it anymore. Now, that's a problem. And we're not asking, we don't want to pay more taxes to up construction costs. But what you're buying is not the best construction project out there, because you're not building young Canadians. You're feeding a problem. You're feeding labor pimps. You're feeding nefarious contractors. You're not looking after the people of Alberta who have voted you in. We need help.
It's really disturbing that you'd see Canadians treating people like that on our job sites all around us. And the funny part is nobody seems to recognize the issue or see the problem.
And you're right, there is no central agency. We started a committee, the Civil Construction Committee, and it was the Masons, Local 222, the Laborers, Local 92, and the Carpenters 1325. And we had someone in OH&S who was taking the reporting system we built that lays out all of the different violations that these job sites have, and they were distributing them to all the different agencies that look after this issue. The problem with that is we are not police people. We are not private investigators. We are doing the work that a government agency should be doing. Going out to these job sites, not calling the employer before you come so that they can shift these undocumented workers around. Go out to the job sites with a list of who's supposed to be on that job site. We have to get better at making sure that public contracts address this issue. This issue is huge. Any politician that is running for city council in Edmonton or Calgary, or to be the mayor, needs to come and talk to us and work with us so that we can help you, because you are making this problem worse with your procurement policies that are either voluntary community benefits agreements, and I actually sit on that committee for social procurement in Edmonton. If there's no enforcement, you're not getting what you're banking on getting.
That's true. So yeah, we've sat at the table, we've sat at the mayor's office, we've talked about this issue. It just seems to fall on deaf ears. We know it's happening, it's prevalent. The entire commercial world is almost swallowed up by this. We've got a residential world that's all underground. We've got underground economy is taken over the industry, and it's driving the price down, it's driving the wages down. It's not helping anybody, and we really need a solution to this. We need people to get on board and understand what it's doing overall. There is no apprenticeship if you don't have apprentices.
So to building trades workers out there, and all workers out there who are paying their taxes on their check for any construction work that you're doing, vote with this in mind. Use this to select which of the politicians is telling you that they're going to do something about it, because we cannot let this keep going. We can't, or we're going to end up like some of these other countries where construction workers are only the people that can't finish high school. This parity of esteem that the province is pushing right now is real. We do have parity, we should have parity of esteem. A construction worker who has finished a Red Seal certificate or who has dedicated his life to getting better at his trade or her trade and doing this thing properly needs to realize that's a good, honest career. It's a middle-class career, it should be. But that's not what it's going to become if we allow this to keep going. Once this starts leaking into the mechanical trades and people start cutting corners and degrading the Red Seal tickets that are out there and taking away restricted activities and making it so that it's easier and easier to perform construction without a skilled trades body, we're going to be in trouble. We need your help. So vote understanding this. Ask your local politicians what they're going to do about it. And remember, in the provincial election, when this thing comes around, that the root of all of this is double-breasting. Double-breasting has allowed this system to happen without regulation, without enforcement, and without somebody there supporting the workers. Thanks so much for coming today, George.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for
I think
having
it's
me.
been a good conversation. We're not going to let this up. We're going to keep going. We're going to go harder in the future. Please stay tuned. Thanks very much.